what is Tools4CAP if it's the first time you interact with us. And then I will highlight key points that we have developed. You are all aware that we are working already towards the new programming period of the next CAP, and we have identified some challenges, so I will present them briefly. So what first is Tools4CAP about? So really, Tools4CAP is a support action Horizon Europe program, from Horizon Europe program, meaning that we are not developing new research methods, but rather harvesting existing out there and trying to adapt them and make them more accessible for you who are designing the next CAP or participating in providing evidence on the potential impact of the CAP. So this project started in 2023. So as mentioned by Raquel, we are in our last year, and we have about 20 partners involved in the project. So we intend to provide shared knowledge. We intend to adapt innovative methods and tools so that you can use them. And the Academy of today is part of our way to help to empower end users. So what we mean by end user is you, national, local, regional policymakers, and also the research community who is involved in providing evidence for policy design. And for that, we have established also replication lab, also called case studies, and you will hear more about some of them today. Quickly, if you never interacted with Tools4CAP, you can first maybe a good entry point is to check our inventory online, where we basically list the different tools that we have identified, and that can be used for different purpose and at different point in time during the design process of the CAP. And as mentioned by Raquel, we have conducted several case studies. You can see them on the map. And today you will look more specifically at participatory methods and policy choice supporting tools. So in end of last year, Tools4CAP also published a policy brief resulting from the publication of the next MFF, and we try to reflect how this will impact the design of the next programming period. What do we see? What is really changing? Well, I think you are all aware that the CAP now is absorbed into the NRPF funds. What does it mean? Is part of and the CAP is part of a rather broader national and regional partnership plans, where there will be an agricultural chapter. And in practice, it means that several funds will be looked at together, notably cohesion, fishery funds, along with CAP funds. There is also change in governance, where there is more autonomy, greater autonomy even provided to the member state, who gain flexibility in designing the intervention. That was already the case under the CAP strategic plan regulation. However, here there is less mandatory step that previously existed. So we don't see an ex ante evaluation. That is, we don't see a SWOT analysis, for instance, or need assessment and prioritization. So member states have a bit more flexibility granted. And the European Commission role is also evolving. Now it will rather be involved at the outset with providing recommendations to member states who are themselves required to address those recommendations in the respective NRPPs. What we see as well in terms, let's say, more in content for the next CAP, we see that a reduced number of interventions, and we see that the aggregate value of all income support intervention is ring-fenced, and however, not all such interventions are fully financed by the EU budget. Actually, only digressive area-based income support, capital income support, and crop-specific payment for contents do not require co-financing. So this will change a bit the mechanistic on how to think about financial allocations. There is also an effort on streamlining the number of interventions, but we also see that the long-standing gag has been replaced by the farm stewardship, and we can question whether this greater autonomy will threaten or not the equal level playing field between the member states. Another aspect that has been introduced and still at the stage of proposal, so we will see how it involves, but there is a stronger degressivity and capping condition, which potentially could lead to a significant impact at member state level. So often the question about the budget has been really in the media, I would say, I trigger a lot of attention. I'm not going to comment whether the budget is bigger or smaller, but rather how the design of the budget do trigger certain uncertainty in the future. Overall, the total budget is bigger, 2 trillion euros. We have 865 billion euros for the NRPP fund, which includes the CAP. And we have a part of the CAP that is ring fences, and a part that is unearmarked. And this unearmarked has some flexibility, because 25% of this fund, of this unearmarked fund, can be redirected towards crisis situation. Therefore, we will only know what is the overall budget spent under the CAP by the end of the programming period, because things will change during the programming period. Another source of uncertainty, and that I already touched upon, is, let's say, the co-financing rules. Only 4 interventions remain fully co-financed. Others, such as agri-environmental payment, the co-financing is proposed to be, the rate of co-financing is proposed to be increased. Therefore, we can wonder if some member states, due to financial constraint, will rather favor fully finance EU intervention instead of interventions that do require co-financing. And finally, another source of uncertainty regarding how the EU CAP budget will look like is that there is a union safety net of where 6.3 billion euros is introduced to address crisis as well. So overall, what we can say is that we will be at the starting point, and the starting point might be very different, and what we expect the CAP to look like over the programming might be very different at the end of the programming period. So although you member state to think about what will be the next CAP, actually the design process will be a continuum where you will have to design and adjust the intervention as time goes by. What are the key challenge for evidence-based policy? So first, as mentioned, the budget uncertainty, because there is some funds that are unallocated, and it makes it difficult to create a long-term planning support by evidence-based prioritizations. The second challenge is the fact that there is this dimension of co-financing arrangement that may create that some interventions are less attractive for certain member states, and then may play in the design process. Although those interventions can potentially be more impactful. The third risk is that there is a risk of reducing, I would say, the overall quality of evidence-based policy unless the potential impact of new policy measures are interrogated by researchers and policy makers. At the moment, there is no clear need for intervention logic to establish clear causal link between the objectives, interventions, the results. So if it's not backed up by a strong demand from the national policymakers to provide evidence, there is a risk of undermining policy design rigor. The fourth challenge is for some member states with historical prevalence of small farm, they might find themselves with limited scope to reallocate resources due to degressivity or capping. However, for member states with a more concentrated type of land ownership, they may experience a significant budget reallocation due to degressivity and capping. And therefore, that will require strong impact assessment to be sure that we don't have unintended impact. Sorry. Finally, regarding the farm stewardship, so it did replace a baseline that has been established for about 20 years. And because there is more discretion for the member state to adapt it to the local conditions, there is a bit of threat to the equal level playing field in the EU, and therefore we have to be looked closely to maintain this level playing field. And finally, as mentioned before, there is no required step, I would say methodologically, no SWOT analysis, no ex-ante evaluation, no need prioritization that are required at the moment by the regulations. So it will left member state with the discretion to choose or not to employ those tools. Obviously, the project is Tools4CAP, so we promote an evidence-based policy making. So we believe those tools are useful for making sure you can reach your objective using the best intervention for it. However, some of the decision might be driven by, let's say, policy discourse rather than evidence-based. And therefore, those challenges have led Tools4CAP to make some few policy recommendations. We distinguished our policy recommendation. Some of them are just more to EU level, European Commission and the co-legislator, and others to member states. For us, it's very important that the European Commission, at EU level rather, we make sure we prioritize data and science in the design of the policy making, and that we ensure that at EU level. And that can also be translated by a detailed template for an RPP, a detailed guidelines regarding what would be the necessary ex-ante evaluation step to undertake. I'm not necessarily talking about ex-ante evaluation, but rather specific steps that needs to be undertaken. And to ensure that there is a strong accountability, notably in stakeholder representation and engagement, and that as you mentioned, that the input is taken on board. It will also, the role at EU level will be to really define a clear, transparent, I would say, approval process of this agricultural chapter to ensure the equal level playing field. And finally, I would say that data access is key. Data access for member states, the European Commission, but also for the scientific communities. So to leverage data interoperability and single gateway for researchers. For member states, we believe that the existence of clear tracker and interministerial groups and how this discussion will be tracks along the policy design of the next CAP will be key to ensure transparency, and that the priority setting is grounded in evidence, notably by developing indicators that you can monitor in the future. And that comes to the third recommendation for member states, as we don't know how the budget will be used fully, and that might change during the programming period. There will be really a need for monitoring indicators along the programming period to be able to readjust and reassess the effectiveness of the different, let's say, interventions and policy mixed. And finally, there is a strong, let's say, governance aspect for member states, notably with ensuring that the region are represented and ensure that the public spending is regularly reviewed. Finally, few implications for the research community. So we think that actually is as much a challenge for researchers than an opportunity. And there will be a need to address budgetary data gaps and enable cross-country, cross-period comparisons in order to inform policymakers. And the need to integrate mixed approach, so as much quantitative and qualitative methods on different scope, regional, national, will be further straightened to ensure coherence. There will be a need for to develop some research in order to have independent and critical analysis of the future NRPPs, and to advocate for strong intervention logic backup with a strong objective and indicator framework, and to standardize those indicators in the spirit of future evaluations.